Cold open for today's episode of the Just Basketball Show. I'm Chris Manning, Wes Goldberg, Brennan Cleaner with you guys. We're going to do a Olympics preview today, but I want to ask you, who is your favorite player in an international basketball context?
Is this all time?
All time.
Or historic? Okay, so not just right now. I loved Olympic Melo.
Yeah.
I liked that it was so much different than NBA Melo. And it really sort of contextualized the whole idea that you could just be a different person, right? Because before it just was like, oh, cool, like LeBron's wearing a new jersey number. But that was the extent of how it was different. And then Olympic Melo sort of was like, oh, you could just kind of create this alter ego and you didn't have to commit to it, right? Like Carmelo Anthony was never going to be Olympic Melo in the NBA in his prime, right? Like he was sort of that during the end of his career because he had to be. But I don't know, for a star player to just sort of embrace a role for a few weeks, which is why I think it can happen because it only has to happen for a few weeks and your next contract doesn't depend on it at all. I just thought that was really cool. So it was kind of a neat experiment, and especially because I was a little bit younger then. I was like, oh wow, these players could just do something completely different. That was just a cool experience.
Brennan, what about you?
Yeah, I honestly have to admit, up until the past 4 years, basically since the last Olympics, I was never the biggest Olympics basketball watcher. Like, that wasn't really a thing growing up. Maybe because the best player on my favorite team was Canadian most of my childhood, and there wasn't that link. I don't know.
Kelly Olynyk.
So I guess I will just shout out Manu Ginobili and that squad. It's just the most memorable non-American team I can think of, and feels like the explosion we've seen of international. I know we attribute it to the Dream Team and everything else, but that group actually dominating on that stage, I feel like laid the foundation for that part of the world and other teams to just feel like they could go up against us. Also, of course, brought the best out of our team, which is nice, of course. So that's probably my pick. I'll go Manu.
It's a good pick. I have two, kind of, but I want to say Olympic Melo is just an obvious one because that was like the most it felt like the most unstoppable catch and shoot guy I'd ever seen in my life. It was just automatic. The other one though was Olympic Kevin Love pre his Cleveland days, and some of this is because I think I went back and watched so much film of 2012 Olympic Kevin Love with him and LeBron and talked myself into an idea that the Kevin Love who just rebounds and shoots threes and throws outlet passes, plus what he did in the NBA would be a thing in Cleveland, and then obviously he just really became a high-end spot-up guy who rebounded and kind of played off LeBron in a very kind of compartmentalized role. But Olympic Kevin Love in his prime was awesome, and he was really nice on that 2012 Olympic team, and that was kind of his one go. And obviously he comes back and then he leaves, and it's a whole awkward thing a couple years ago, but I really loved Olympic Kevin Love, partially I think because I just watched so much of him. In retrospect, too, I would say what it clearly meant for Kobe at the end. I went back and was reading a little bit about Kobe and his thoughts on playing for Team USA. And at the end, when he was getting towards the end of his run there, you could just tell how much it meant to him. And there was something kind of cool about that he was a standard bearer for USA basketball in a way that I don't even know if we exactly have that now.
Also, shout out to the Gasol brothers.
Yeah.
The wrestling duo of Spain anchored the Spain team for years, even after their retirement from the NBA, and now Spain has sort of been handed off to a new group of brothers, Willie and Juancho Hernan-Gomez.
Not quite, doesn't quite hit the same, that's all I'd say.
But I like that they're on. I like that they have a type, and that's fine for me. So,
brothers.
It's a lot of pressure.
About the best.
Somebody comes along who doesn't have a brother, are they going to be accepted as the leader of the team? Is that a
as
prerequisite?
long as there's other brothers on the team, they'll be fine. I think. Yeah.
I do miss. Yeah, I will say
that's in the mission statement.
Yeah, it's probably in the bylaws somewhere. I do miss peak Spain in general. It's not quite that when you look at the roster now.
The country?
Well, no. I mean, peak Olympic
Madrid
basketball.
still slaps.
Yeah, I'd like to go to Madrid. I'd like to go to Barcelona. I have things I'd like to do in Spain, but the Olympic basketball roster, not exactly loaded like it was when it was the Gasol brothers and Rubio, and it was a whole thing. And now it's what's going on?
Hernan-Gomez.
The Hernan-Gomez and Sergio Ul and Santi Aldama.
Rudy Fernandez is still around, 39 years old.
I mean, who's to say nothing's possible in our late 30s, you know? All right, coming up on today's show, Olympic preview and a game of what matters most with 3 recent NBA bits of news. That's coming up today on the Just Basketball Show.
A spectacular move by Michael Jordan. LeBron James with no regard for human life.
Hey there, welcome into the Just Basketball Show. I'm Chris Manning. That's Brennan Clean. That is Wes Goldberg. Haven't already? Follow, rate, review on your podcast app platform of choice. Hit subscribe on the Just Basketball Fans YouTube channel. And check us out on TikTok, Instagram, and X. Want to tell you that support for today's episode comes from BetMGM. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code JustBasketball and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here is how that works. Step 1, download the BetMGM Sportsbook app on iOS or Android and sign up using code JustBasketball. Step 2, deposit at least $10 and place your first wager in any game. Step 3, you receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure to use bonus code JustBasketball when you sign up. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 or older to wager. Terms and conditions apply. All right, we've got key questions for this Olympic preview. I'll read you the questions, and then we'll start diving in. And I have one big picture question, USA question. I'm going to throw you guys a surprise here as well. We'll do that at the top. Key questions we're going to hit: most surprisingly fun team, most surprisingly fun player, Cinderella team, tournament MVP, how far does Team USA go, finals pick, and winner. Guys, I've come to a take I want to get that I don't think quite fits these questions. I just want to ask you if you agree with me or not. I think we've maybe talked about this a little bit in our group chat, but the more I've thought about Team USA and the more I went back and watched some of the highlights of their games, am I out of bounds or wrong in thinking that Anthony Davis is much more important to this team than Joel Embiid?
I don't think you're wrong. I think based on the way that Joel Embiid has played, I think the best version of Joel Embiid, and perhaps the Joel Embiid that they imagined when they basically convinced him to pronounce his U.S. citizenship over France and Cameroon, was that this guy could be a singular dominant force and provide the kind of size that this team didn't have in the FIBA World Cup last summer, right? And Joel Embiid, because in part he's coming off of an injury, he doesn't look 100%. He's also not accustomed to playing sort of FIBA rules basketball, hasn't exactly been that guy. I have also not ruled out that he cannot be that guy. Just because it was a slow start through the exhibitions, I think the guy can be the dominant force that they wanted him to be. Particularly, I'm looking forward to this first game against Serbia, against Nikola Jokic, and whether or not Embiid can hold up a little bit better than he did during the friendly. So, but so far, I think you're exactly right, Chris. I think Anthony Davis has easily been the better center for Team USA so far.
Yeah, it's almost like, to me, Embiid might be the more important center, but I think AD might play better. You know, like the reason they got Embiid is because of those matchups like Jokic and the way that those types of centers have just dominated the U.S. in these international tournaments over the years when they've had to be undersized. Now, you know, in the past, that meant like Bam and Draymond at center. And so even having AD, maybe in an alternate universe where you saw all of that coming and AD being healthy, you maybe don't go after Embiid. But for now, I think AD is kind of the finesse, athletic, maybe small ball, more versatile center, whereas they do still need Embiid for some of those big guys. However, as I say that, I'm looking at these rosters. I'm not sure how long the list is beyond Jokic of teams that they actually need that for. It might be Jokic and Gobert in France, and that's it. Like,
yeah,
you know, there's no Jonas Valanciunas and guys like that tend to just kill you in the post. Those teams didn't make it. The Olympic roster
I can't believe you're
group
sleeping
is
on
smaller.
Mo Wagner like this. Totally unfair.
Yeah, sorry.
I think
to Dwight Powell as well.
Yeah, I think Bam. I think there's like a game. There's going to be games where like it's Bam and Anthony Davis are like more clearly like the better options to close these games, and I just think that speaks to Wes's point. I think a lot about how Embiid's health is right now.
It's already happening.
Yeah,
right?
I mean he's the least sharp guy on the team coming into this tournament, and it's pretty.
And I don't even think it's just physical or athletically. I think his decision making, his fit into how this team wants to play hasn't really been.
He's not a
as
Korean kind of guy, really.
But I mean, he should be. I mean, you know, it's like They recruited him. They knew who the coach was going to be. He knew who the coach was going to be. He said yes. Like, this should work. It's not impossible to play quick moving basketball. Also, they're not exactly running 2015 Warriors sets out there. It's a simplified version. He should be able to be part of a system, and it just seems like he's a touch slow on that stuff. Maybe it improves over the course of the tournament, but I could definitely see games where Davis closes over him. I might even be most game. Wouldn't surprise me at all.
We were preparing our key questions for Team USA going into this thing, and that was my question, was whether or not Joel Embiid can kind of adapt his game. The way that we were talking about Olympic Melo, right? He just had to play different, even in his prime, for the Olympics. And I do wonder if Joel Embiid has that gear, if he's a guy who kind of slowly but eventually realizes, you know what, this context just requires something different of me. He holds the ball a lot, which is maybe the thing that makes it sort of the grimiest version of Team USA when Joel Embiid is on the court, is because he's holding the ball in the middle of the floor and other guys are looking at him wondering what he's about to do with it. And that's basically what he's had to do for the 76ers for years, is I get the ball around the foul line and then I decide what I'm going to do, and I'm going to take a few seconds to make my decision. And it's fine because he plays that slow kind of basketball. He certainly has the ability to do other things. I mean, the guy is 7 feet tall. If he wants to shoot it in half a second, he could shoot it over anybody, basically, outside of France, Team France. So that's an option. He's developed as a passer, even last year, playing with Tyrese Maxey. He's not the passer that Jokic is, but nobody is. You don't have to be, right? To your guys' point, like, those Warriors systems had Andrew Bogut, Zaza Pachulia, David West in the low post, making those outside those out of the post passes, running split cuts, and all those things. Like, this team has that kind of personnel, most notably, obviously, Steph. But there's a version of Embiid that can work, but it will require him just simply playing different than he plays in the NBA. And that, to me, is, I think, a pretty compelling storyline, because the thing is, Team USA with Joel Embiid playing like this is still awesome. It might not even ever matter whether or not this debate of should he come off the bench, should he start, is he okay, whatever, it might not ever matter, right? They might just be that good. But it's a pretty compelling storyline in terms of, well, could we think differently about Joel Embiid, who has seemed like this guy for so long? If he's able to adapt his game and help the U.S. win a gold medal, like, that's going to help his Q rating, especially if they beat Serbia and Nikola Jokic, whose Q rating is a little bit higher outside of Philadelphia than I would say among the basketball world than Joel Embiid's.
All right.
Yeah, part of why it is so fascinating, I think, in addition, is because we started out the show with those guys, Melo, Love, whoever, that have adjusted and been something different. But there's a lot of guys who have struggled to do that at the same. I would even throw Zach LaVine, frankly, as somebody who did what he kind of needed to and looked much better in this environment. But there's a lot of guys who haven't, right? I mean, we joked about it throughout the FIBA World Cup last year, Chris, of Brandon Ingram. And then look, lo and behold, the regular season sort of shaped up in very similar fashion, where he just needs to adjust to what his game is going to be in the modern NBA, and he doesn't seem willing to do that. And so, obviously, Embiid's an MVP candidate. He could go out and win a title next year. It might not say as much big picture about who he is, but it's not exactly unprecedented that somebody can also look worse in this environment. Maybe we just think it has to change and get better because they recruited him and he's so good and he's exactly the type of big you theoretically need in this type of format, but maybe this is just what it is. And, there's a world where the Embiid experiment with Team USA lasts this year and it's a blip and we never think about it again because it doesn't go well, and they could still win the gold.
If I could expand on the point with one more thing, and then I'll throw it back to you, Chris. Going back to that Melo Embiid comparison, I think the difference between these guys and Brandon Ingram was it unwillingness from Brandon Ingram, or was it just simply an inability? Right? Ingram's a fine player. He's a very good basketball player. He's not Carmelo Anthony at the Olympics.
Yeah,
he's not
but
Joel Embiid even
wouldn't
now.
you have said Melo would never take threes? All Ingram really needed to do was just kind of lean into that, spot up role a little more. He wouldn't do it.
As good as Ingram is, and I don't mean to make this like an apology for Brandon Ingram, but he's he wasn't even the shooter or the scorer that Carmelo was.
Yeah.
I guess the difference was
Talent
for great
not the
players, they feel they are able to figure it out because their talent is so vast, where Brandon Ingram just sort of is what he is. And I think we also thought about Carmelo Anthony in the same way that we kind of think about Joel Embiid now is, hey, those Denver Nuggets teams, the Knicks, like all that's really cool. The guy puts up a lot of points, but he's not a winning basketball player. And then he won gold, and our entire opinion of Carmelo Anthony changed after that. And it took a little while, but that was such a big moment for him in his career and just his reputation. And Joel Embiid is not the easiest guy to root for, right? Like the foul baiting and all this stuff, it's really easy to make fun of him. He's easily memeable. He leans into it and all this stuff. But if he were to change his game for the better of America and help this team win gold, it really would help his reputation across the league. And he has that opportunity here. And I find the entire storyline fascinating. Chris, we were talking about our big questions, though. Is yours related to Embiid, or do you have something else?
I have something else. Well, no, that was my question. That was my big question to get this one.
Okay.
But my big
I
question
have two
is,
since you guys ended up with the same. If we need an extra one.
well,
Let's go with one.
here's just say my other one is, I think this we're gonna see it unfold pretty quickly, but it's related to the NBA season in a way because I wanted to see where I could draw a line to the fall. It's really how healthy does Kevin Durant really look over the course of this tournament? Like it's really
Does
just
he play?
I'm just fascinated by what is going on with KD right now, and it's going to set the stage for what's coming with the Suns in the fall. So there's a lot at stake, I think, with where KD's at. So I'm watching him.
Yeah, it's a weird one, you know.
I don't want to make Britain talk about it.
If he doesn't play at all, because he might not have to,
yeah.
Does he still get a medal if Team USA wins gold? The
Well,
answer
I
is
mean,
yes, because he's on the team.
Yeah, participation trophies.
But then
you know?
he would get that would be his fourth gold medal. Is that the most? Who does anybody have?
Diana
4 gold
Taurasi
medals?
could get 6 this year.
Yeah,
So but men's,
I was talking about men's.
I think
men's
it
team.
I think it might be. Yeah, I think that's kind of the thing here. He's the leading scorer, and I think 4 would be the record.
It would be the worst case scenario for Durant. If he decides he can't play, he should give up his spot for like Jaylen Brown or something.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
The
say.
guy already
If-
has too many empty trophies, so to have the empty gold medal at the end would be like the worst thing he could do for his reputation.
I
But
do
all
not
the gold
subscribe
medals
to
right now
anything
are
being
solid
said
if you bite them.
on this podcast right now.
That's it. That's
Yeah,
really my one.
I don't think it's going to get to that point. I think if
I hope not. I hope he plays.
He's like apparently,
practicing.
beefing. Him and his agent are beefing with Brian Windhorst about the idea that he might not play Sunday. So, if they're leaving open the possibility that he's back Sunday and that they're trying to get the message out that he's been working and doing everything he can to get on the court, and maybe there's a little bit of, hey, Steve Kerr's kind of slow rolling this and we'd prefer if he didn't. Maybe Kerr has some PTSD about another similar situation 5 years ago, whatever it might be. I doubt it lingers the whole tournament, the injury itself. But if it does, he'll just leave. I mean, there's no reason to waste the roster spot if it really got to the point where he's incapable of playing a single game. I mean, these rosters aren't big. At a certain point, he just needs to go home.
Is there a deadline for that?
I don't know how that works. If it was a legitimate injury, you'd think there has to be something, right? I mean, what if a guy like tore his ACL on the court in a game? They wouldn't make him stick around.
Yeah, but
So I don't know.
are you then like down a guy? Or is there someone like waiting near their home, like with access to a
I would
private jet
imagine
to
that
fly to
there's-
France?
At the risk of reckless speculation, I would imagine there's a deadline where there's a difference between guy just goes home and you play with one less guy versus guy goes home and you're able to replace him. But
Yeah, who knows? Maybe that's already passed too. You never really know. But
it's very true.
my question, we'll say on Team USA. I have one for USA and then I have one international.
Okay.
Foreign, we'll call it. Team USA wise, to stay there, what do you guys think this means to LeBron? Why is he doing this? Why does he care? Why is he still putting this team on his back and even participating? Like, what is the point? He has nothing left to prove. He's done this before. He's 40 years old. Why? Why is this all happening?
Well,
I can tell you.
Go
I
ahead.
can. So I
Okay.
number one, just for context, has not played in the Olympics since 2012. Has not played for Team USA in over 10 years. It's been a long time. I was graduating high school the summer that he last played in Olympics, and now 30.
Exactly.
Right. I think, Brendan, it is
Humble
about
brag, by the way.
that I graduated high
Graduated high
school.
school.
Yeah, I know, big deal. Doing great.
Nice. Good job.
Yeah, congrats. Yeah, that's why I have this podcast with you guys. I made it through high school. That's the whole thing.
GED.
That's right. LeBron is doing it because this the kickstart or part of the LeBron farewell tour. He's getting to be the Olympic flag bearer. LeBron James. So Dennis Schroeder as well, but that's still cool, but not as cool as LeBron. LeBron James is the Olympic.
Yeah, does Germany
flag bearer.
have like a dearth of impressive athletes? I mean, all respect to Dennis, but damn, we needed to bring LeBron out there to get to have somebody on the basketball team do the flag.
Well,
this is like
Sue
Dennis
Bird did it
Schroeder,
last
like,
time, I believe, on the women's side, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But LeBron getting to be the Olympic flag bearer of the United States of America at the Olympics, be the elder statesman, be the leader of this team in a lot of ways, get to play with Steph, get to work with Kerr again, like get to do all of these things. This is the last time he will ever get to do this. And I think for him, it's like, okay, I want to get one more Olympic gold medal. I want to be front and center of a Team USA team as the elder statesman, and I want to represent my country in this big global way. This is unlike anything he could get to do the rest of his NBA career. So I think it's really like a why not kind of thing, you know?
I think also part of this too is that the Lakers kind of stink, and they are not going to win a championship for the rest of his career probably, and so this is his way to compete at sort of the highest level, the biggest stage, right? I think that's part of it too, to win another something, and in this case, it's a gold medal. I also think, to expand on your point, Chris, not only is this part of his last run, this is going to be such a cool moment if they win gold for the documentary that he is filming. They've got to be there, right, in Paris. Like, this is going to be part of it. Is not only is this a way for him to kind of reclaim his status as a winner based off the Lakers situation, but also I don't know that he's doing this if Team USA was in an awesome place and didn't finish in 4th in the FIBA World Cup last year, because now he's the savior of Team USA. This is all part of the LeBron legacy. This is all storybook written. This is a script. This is awesome stuff for LeBron and the legacy that we know he is always thinking about. So he gets to come in, win something else, be the savior of Team USA, flag bearer, the whole thing, and it's going to be an awesome part of the movie that he's going to make one day.
All good points, all relevant. I did remind myself, I went back, long story, but I went back and listened to the 2021 post Suns beat Lakers podcast that I did for my Suns podcast, just to torture myself a little bit, I guess.
Sure.
And reminded myself that he was on track to participate that year, even with COVID and everything. And it was because he had the ankle injury that made him look very human and made a lot of us think it might be close to the end that postseason that he didn't go to Tokyo. And then in 2016, Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it was probably because he gave every ounce of energy that I think a human being has ever devoted to anything to win that title, and was probably just exhausted, right? I mean, so it's not like he retired from Team USA in 2012. So, he kept the door open, and I think you guys are probably right.
To the exact quote from 2016, he told Joe Varden, quote, "I could use the rest," end quote, on June 23rd. So like right after the finals.
I remember that.
So there you go. Yeah, but I think that's all valid. I don't know if I subscribe to I know I texted you guys when he signed the contract. I think this is the last year for him, but he also would just be saying no to a lot of money, which feels...
It's already $1 billion.
Hard to imagine until you see somebody do it with the option. But yeah, he's going to be the closer for this team, which is just absolutely bonkers that is even a thing, as we saw in South Sudan.
In the regular season of every broadcaster pointing out how old he is, you have a whole summer of it too, which is also fun.
I personally am just very into this whole LeBron thing. It's just like I'm savoring every little bit of the last LeBron stuff we're gonna get.
I am too, but I know how old he is. Not everybody has to tell me every second of the day.
It's true.
The movie is gonna be cool, but not good. I'll predict it now.
Well, it's good. It depends on when it comes out. I think it could be good if you give it more time to breathe. Like, part of the beauty of The Last Dance is that it was well after it happened. Like, we had time.
Part of the beauty of The Last Dance is Michael
COVID.
Jordan doesn't talk, and then he did.
Yeah.
I don't really have a lot of LeBron's career that I'm wondering about.
There's not going to, even during his podcast with JJ Redick, there wasn't a ton that LeBron said that I was surprised by.
Yeah.
It's like,
he's very available.
He's very available. To his credit, by the way.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure. Not a bad thing.
He's the athlete, like star athlete in the NBA that actually like is most willing to like really, I think, like not collaborate's a weird word to use, but like talk to the local media about stuff and like form bonds with these guys. Like, that is a dying thing that doesn't happen much anymore.
Well, and he did he did the Redeem Team documentary, you know, he did the Shooting Stars thing. He did the Shop where he was pretty open about, you know, whatever sports and political stuff at the time. And he's just out here in a way that Michael Jordan was not. Also, Michael Jordan came through in an era where it was not possible to be as available as LeBron is.
Right.
So it's just, I don't know. I'm optimistic. I will watch it. Of course, we all will, but I don't know if it'll be good. My
less
team, my
matters whether or not-
international question. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It doesn't matter as much if it's good as much as it exists, and that's really the point, right? It's sort of like Space Jam 2. It doesn't really matter if it's as good.
Streaming
as
era,
Michael
baby.
Jordan's. The only thing that's important is that it exists. But your foreign question is,
Yeah. Can Jokic do with Serbia what Luka did with Slovenia 4 years ago?
it's a good question.
Slovenia was in it till the end that year, and that team was Luka and like Vlatko Čančar. This year, I would say Serbia's roster is better. I mean, they have more guys whose names we recognize, right? They have Bogdan Bogdanovic, who is the captain of the team. They have Jovic. They have Petrusev. Those are both NBA guys. A couple others who have come through the league over the years. And then Misic, who's in Charlotte now, but obviously came over with OKC last year. That's like a full 5-man unit of pretty good NBA players. And then you have the best NBA player in Jokic. Now, this team lost to Team USA in that tune-up game in pretty ugly fashion. I didn't watch that one. I don't know if you guys did, but that would be the case against them running through this whole tournament, is that they got stomped by Team USA already.
Yeah, it's going to take a minute for them to maybe develop some chemistry. I think Jokic and Steph have a lot in common in that they're great teammates, but they're kind of hard to play with just because they break the usual geometry rules of basketball, and it just takes a minute. You know, if you're one of his teammates, you're like, okay, wait, you're going to do this now? Because that's not what most players do, and that's what makes these players special. And then once it clicks, you're off and running. Can Bogdanovic be Serbia's Jamal Murray to the Nikola Jokic? Can Nikola Jovic hit threes the way he did at the FIBA World Cup last year at over 40% and kind of be the Michael Porter Jr. of that team, right? Like, you know, we already know what works around Jokic because the Denver Nuggets do it. You almost just try to have to get guys in that role if they want to play that way. And the way they play is very sort of European because their best player is European. So,
Well, they're all European.
and now they're all European. So it should work, and it should have been better than it was in the exhibition, to your point. I would bet it is. I don't know if it's enough to medal, but it's a great question because go ahead.
To your point about the gelling, right? Like, Jokic didn't play in the World Cup either, so they don't have the reps. And I think you're also right that Luka can just be a team in a way that Jokic doesn't really want to do, right? He's not just going to say, let me pound the ball in the post 45 times a game and just will us to victory. He wants the team to be part of it, but are they ready to be? Do they have chemistry to make that happen? I think that's part of why it's so fascinating. Also, Serbia quietly, they got killed, but they made it to the gold medal game in 2016, and Jokic came off the bench for 24 minutes, which I completely forgot ever happened. And they kind of retired like the previous generation that year. A lot of the guys who were kind of that era of Serbian basketball are gone. Nemanja Nedovic, if you remember him, Milos Teodosic, some of those guys, they're gone now. So it really is Bogdanovic and Jokic's team. They both were young bench dudes back then. So for their kind of national basketball program and all that, it also is kind of a big year because he didn't play in the World Cup and everything else. I'm sure they want to do well. They want to do better than getting stomped in an exhibition, and they'll play again on Sunday against Team USA. I would imagine they're going to bring it in that game. I would be hard-pressed to imagine that it's another lopsided result because they think of themselves as a powerhouse and they want to prove it.
Yeah, but I think structurally, Brendan, I get back to the point of Luka can be the team upon himself in a way Jokic does not really want to be. And at a certain point, it's like, okay, in this warm-up game, Drew Holiday was like one of 4 players in the team that was like 21 minutes, like so like near the top, but like not quite at the top of minutes. Like their USA roster obviously deeper. You have like Marko Guguric, who was like a Grizzlies cast off, didn't really stick in the league, is playing 26 minutes for Serbia. Ogden Dobric is a really accomplished overseas guy. He's playing, like, the talent level is just different. And then you pair that with the chemistry thing. You pair it with the Jokic structural thing. I think it's possible they, like, advance and I think have a okay run in them. But I think particularly when you have, like, Canada in this tournament and Germany in this tournament, I think it's a tough sled for them to match exactly what Luka did a couple years ago.
Should we get to the questions?
Let's get to the questions. All right. Start with Brendan. Most surprisingly fun team.
I didn't have a great answer for this one, if I'm being honest. I want to see if
Okay.
Germany. I want to see if Germany can redo it, because again, I was looking at the 2021 Olympics, and they were. I don't think they made it out of the group stage, and then they come through last year at the World Cup and win it. And it's Schroeder and the Wagner brothers, and Schroeder successfully continues to bully Maxi Kleber out of participating in this thing. They have Obst as a shooter, and Tice. Somehow they're very good, and they have real chemistry, this group. Does that continue? Was that just, hey, it's a World Cup year, and like we just mentioned, Giannis isn't involved, Jokic isn't playing, Team USA brought their B- team? Or is this like a real group and something clicks when they play together? That's kind of a team I have my eye on. Are they really that good, or are they not?
That's my answer too, because they are what I want out of like an international program. They've built chemistry, they play together, they play a style. All these guys are competitive as hell. To your Brennan's point as well, I think it's hard to find it's hard to pick a team in this tournament that is not like obviously like Canada is obviously going to be fun. Serbia has Jokic, they're obviously going to be fun. Some of the other teams just don't have the talent level, or Frank, I don't know enough about them yet for us to feel like, okay, they're going to be super fun. The way Germany's going to play, the way they play with each other, and I think what we saw from the World Cup from them, I think that to me makes them my answer for this as well.
You guys are both nuts. First of all, first people in the history of the planet to put Germany and fun in the same sentence.
Wait, you don't like beer and sausage, Wes, and sauerkraut? Like the fuck?
What? Okay, there's a difference between being good and being fun. What about the way Germany plays is fun even a little bit? Like, other than, wow, they click. Like, who cares if they click? That's not fun for me to watch. I'd rather see one guy
I'm
just
really
dunk
waiting
from
for
the
you to
ball.
break down the play style of Puerto Rico here then.
You're like, Alvarado's got this.
You
Here's
got
my
some
answer.
scheme thoughts on Puerto Rico or Brazil?
You know what? Honestly, watching Alvarado do the steal thing in the backcourt would be more fun than anything Germany's going to do this entire thing. if he
I
does
just
that
want
once.
Who's your
mechanical.
answer then?
The
I want
answer's
mechanical efficiency, Wes. Okay.
Very German of you. It's the second unit for Team USA.
This is this is bullshit. You can't give us shit for
pick.
picking Germany, and you're like, I'm picking the second team of the favorites to win the tournament. Rejected. Rejected, Wes. That's unbelievable.
I've only been doing the show with you guys for a few months. What you're going to learn about me is I break every rule of every game that we play.
I mean, when we had you on, like the first time we ever had you on, maybe not the first time, but we were like asking you like your favorite team, and you're like, I'm gonna pick the Miami Hurricanes from like 2002, and you
Right.
like
that was me mostly just not reading your text message ahead of time, just sort of skimming things. That was my fault.
Cool.
No, but it's the second unit of Team USA. The Anthony Davis, Bam Adebayo, Jason Tatum, usually Tyrese Halliburton, and then like another guard. And at first it was Anthony Edwards. And that unit was so much fun, and it was way more fun than the first unit. I'm watching Team USA. This prompt was most surprisingly fun team. I was surprised by how much I was like kind of wanting to yada 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 through the first unit minutes, and then the second unit would come on, and I'm like, all right, here we go. This is where the real Olympics start. So that's my answer. Is the second unit Team USA. They get up and down. They play fast. Halliburton with that defense with Anthony Davis running north-south, Bam playing power forward. All of it is very enjoyable and very fun, and I find myself enjoying myself when I watch it.
If we're not allowed to use Germany and fun in the same sentence, you're not allowed to use Tyrese Halliburton and defense in the same sentence. I know you didn't mean his defense. You just meant Tyrese
the
Halliburton
defense behind
plus the defense,
Right,
but
yes.
it was too close for
enough.
comfort there. You were making it seem like it was him.
We're moving off this. We
can.
we
Most surprisingly fun player. Do we have a good take for this?
Yeah, I
Don't
do.
break the rule on this one.
I do. It's Josh Giddey. I've been watching Josh Giddey play with the ball in his hands and throw cool passes and make shots for Australia. And that's like an Australia team like in a weird place with Ingles being older, Patty Mills being older, some of their younger guys like a Luke Travers who was a draft pick like hasn't really come along. It's like kind of a team in a weird place. But he's looked like more confident and capable than I think we have seen him in the NBA in a couple of years, which obviously makes some sense. And if this is like the start of the Josh Giddey gets to find himself again tour, I think that could be a ton of fun for what
what?
Australia
I'm
can do
here
in this
for it.
tournament. Thank you.
That's a good story.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Yeah. What about you, Brennan?
It's hard not to be incredibly nerdy
Wagner.
with this one.
Can I
No,
guess?
not Mo
yeah,
Wagner.
Where Brennan's going to go with
Brennan's
this?
going to
Sure.
pick Jokic.
No,
No,
that's
it's
not
It's
surprising.
not in the weeds enough. No,
Okay.
he's gonna pick Andrew Nemhard or something.
Dylan Brooks.
No, I was gonna pick Santi Aldama.
Jesus.
Told you.
Uh,
If you watch the World Cup, that dude was like the highest usage player on Spain. He chucks shots when he is on this team, and that was really his breakout. And then he had an awesome season in Memphis that nobody watched because their entire team was on the injury report. But
Yeah.
he's a different dude in this environment, and maybe he's just a different dude. Period. I mean, he is
That's
still
a
only
graphic.
23.
It's a graphic.
He comes in and he just bombs from three. They let him handle the ball more here. He's pressing guys outside on the perimeter defensively. He doesn't have a brother, but he wants to be the lead of this team. You can tell. So I'm ready to watch it.
Maybe he's both Gasol brothers wrapped into one.
All right, wait. Let me look at the Team USA roster and see what player you're gonna pick.
That's fine. I'm going to read off some Santi Aldama stats while we're here. So his per 36-minute stats, almost 15 points a game, 8 rebounds, shot 35% from 3. It might just be a free Aldama summer and maybe a season coming up when Memphis is back
Who
on
needs
the map
Brad
here.
Summer when you got free Aldama Summer is really what I think we need to be saying.
They just
I
traded
am
away
not gonna pick a
Zaire
team-
Williams. Memphis. I mean, they're ready for him to be the guy. I mean, you underestimate Santi Aldama at your own risk, is what I'll say. I'll live on that mountain. I'll live on that hill.
All right,
have
Wes.
that hill.
Wes, are you picking power forward Bam Adebayo?
No, I'm going with Giannis, man.
Okay, you picked like the
It'll be a real
second
surprise if he's fun.
or, second or third best player in the world, Wes. Like, come on, what are we
his
doing?
first Olympics.
Yeah, no.
Okay,
That's
fine.
compelling. That's awesome
Yeah.
to see him on this stage. I get the good. Like, I hear your Josh Giddey and your Santi Aldama thing, but you guys aren't setting alarms to watch Giddey and Aldama play. You might catch the highlights after, perhaps, unless they're playing Team USA. I'm making sure, like, watching Giannis in his first Olympics, that's appointment viewing, especially after the season he just had. So disappointing, losing early in the playoffs, all of this stuff where you know he's going to take this seriously. He was crying when Greece made the Olympics. Like, how is this not compelling? And like you said, this is the third best player in the world. He should care about so many other things. This should be so low on his priority list, and it's not.
Like a
this guy
trade
cares
demand.
deeply about it, and when Giannis is competitive, he's even more dangerous than he usually is. And he's carrying this Greeks team. There's a reason why it's his first Olympics. That team stinks, right? He's the only good player on it. And he's so good and he's so motivated that I'm not picking him as my Cinderella team, which I think is our next question, but I kind of wanted to, it just didn't seem realistic. So I'm going Giannis.
You're not excited about Olympian Kostas and Georgios Papagiannis?
Nope.
They're both good, but that group's hell. That's why they're not going to be a Cinderella team, I think, is the real answer there. Their team is too good.
Let's go to Cinderella.
I don't know if there's going to be a Cinderella team, if I'm being 100% honest.
So, all right, here's the answer.
Okay.
It is Germany, right? Because you look at the BetMGM odds, they have the 6th best odds. They're plus 3,000. They just won the World Cup last year, and yet they're the nobody believed in us team. It would be sort of a Cinderella story if they made a medal run here, based on the odds. So I think the answer is sure. And the way they played USA in the exhibition, I'm not ruling it out. That's a good team.
I believe the way that it works is 8 teams make it out of the group stage, right? So that means the top 2 teams and then 2 more. Mm-hmm. So really the question is which of those 7th and 8th teams is going to be the most kind of surprising or fun or have the chance to actually win a knockout round game. And I look at Group A, a 3rd team's going to get in there, but I don't think we'll call them a Cinderella team, right? Spain or Australia or whatever. Group B, it'll be France and Germany, so maybe Brazil or Japan could be the Cinderella. And then C, I think we're assuming the US and Serbia make it out, but I honestly look at South Sudan.
That's the one I'm rooting for. I don't
That'd
know
be the best story,
answer.
right? That's like the mid-major from some place in Kansas we've never heard of during March Madness that we all just like fall in love with, considering all the history around that team.
That's the one. I don't know how possible it is. I don't know how much of the Team USA close game, LeBron pulling them out late kind of thing was Team USA not taking them seriously, and now they will and all that stuff. But to me, that's the one I'd kind of be rooting for. Particularly if we look at like the other groups, it's like this version of Brazil just like isn't what it was several years ago with a lot of NBA guys. That Japan team is just in a tough group, even though they have some decent NBA guys and a former guy, Yuta Watanabe on that team. It's really, I think, the second place team in Group C gets through. If it's South Sudan, I think that's kind of the logical place you would go, just based on how the group structure looks.
Predictions?
So can I tell you, just I want to flag this now. We don't have this in the questions. I want to flag this. Are we sure, based on how they've played pre-Olympics? I haven't watched all the games, just seen results and highlights. There's a chance France just like sucks, right? Like, and just falls flat for whatever reason.
Yeah. There's definitely a chance. One
They
thing
lost
I
like
did
3 in a row, 4 in a row.
That's why I didn't really have them with fun team, is because it really hasn't been working as much as you'd want it to be. And then, like, Victor Wembanyama, as fun as he is, I could have put him for most fun player. But in terms of fun team, Victor Wembanyama is sort of canceled out by Rudy Gobert's not funness on that team. But I am interested to see if France can put this thing together when the games start mattering.
Is France ever going to develop a guard?
That's the real, like the guard thing with France is just like a real problem.
They should just have Nick Batum do it.
But
I mean, that's the thing, right? Is like, I think like Gobert or Batum might, or not Gobert, Victor Wembanyama or Batum might actually end up having to create some offense for this team. I mean, Nando De Colo is like 40. Evan Fournier is not even getting minutes in the NBA anymore, and that's literally it as far as like offensive guards that they have. They have Ntilikina, who's not that, and like Koulibaly's 19 years old. That's why that would be the case for why they don't do anything here. And they got bounced early in the World Cup, so we've seen it happen already. Unless Vic is that big of a difference on offense already, then I think they're going to be struggling.
Important. At this stage. So
and it's just being at home. I think it's gonna feel like a weird thing if things go poorly for them, which I empathize with. All right, tournament MVP. I'm going LeBron James.
Same.
I thought we were gonna have some disagreement, and I could go there and be a contrarian. But yeah, I have LeBron.
There you go.
What, Brendan? Did you think there was any chance I was picking anyone other than LeBron? Knowing me.
No.
Thank you. Okay.
You're who you are, and don't let anybody take that from you.
I tried to take it from
high
myself.
school graduate.
That's right. High school graduate who, yeah. All right, we're going to leave it there. All right, how far does Team USA go? I mean, this kind of spoils my next pick. I think they're winning the whole thing.
Same.
Like, I think this team is going to, like, when they fully click into place, especially if Durant comes back, I think they're just going to, like, wreck shop. Like, they can play a bunch of different styles. They have a bunch of, like, really good two-way guys. LeBron is healthy and motivated as all hell. They're going to be able to just destroy teams however they need to. They have every aspect of it. If they get in a close game, this team is loaded with guys who can just go get that last bucket. I think they're perfectly suited to just wreck shop in this tournament. And I think, like, even though there was all the hullabaloo about it, the Derek White addition, if, like, Drew Holiday sprains an ankle, it's like they can just put in Derek White into, like, what Drew Holiday does and, like, just pick, like, they're not going to have to change styles if, like, an injury happens anywhere, really. So I just think this team's going to be great. I
have them winning gold. I don't know that they're going to just do like what the Celtics did to the Eastern Conference in the playoffs en route to the final here, but I think Germany is good. I think Canada is really good. It wouldn't shock me at all if one of those teams won. It wouldn't shock me if Serbia kind of put everything together and made a run here. I'm not going to discount anybody. I think that we kind of look at the names and discount the fact that these guys have never really played together at this level or in this sort of environment, and a team like Canada has, Serbia certainly has their experience together and things like that. But I do think that they're going to accomplish their mission and the whole point of them coming together and win gold. So that would be my prediction here.
Odds-wise, they're minus 500. The next closest is plus 1,100, which is Canada. So they're just massive favorites, and I think it would be kind of crazy to see it any other way. Canada's second. I think the place where the size thing will come into effect the most, like we talked about it with Embiid, but the other part of it with Team USA is they're bigger everywhere right now with LeBron, who we just all picked for tournament MVP, but also Anthony Davis, who we talked about, and Tatum and Durant. Like, they just are going to be bigger and more athletic than everybody at every single position. And Canada's small. They have Dort as like their biggest like wing forward guy. Everybody else is Murray and Alexander Walker and RJ Barrett and Andrew Nembhard and Dylan Brooks, like a bunch of two guards. So the version that we saw at the World Cup was more susceptible to losing to a team like Canada. I don't think this version is going to be that.
Yeah.
So that's my finals pick is USA Canada. I will be interested to see. I would be surprised if USA lost that game if that's indeed the final here. I will say this for Canada, they have there's not one thing that you need to beat USA, but there's a few things. But among the few things, they have one of them, and that's a stretch center that can pull Joel Embiid either out or beat the drop coverage that Joel Embiid's going to play in. Now, obviously, the counter for Team USA is we'll take Joel Embiid out. Now we got Anthony Davis and Bam Adebayo who can kind of go all over the court.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be shocked if Kelly Olynyk had a big game against Team USA if and when they play. So, but I still have so my finals pick was USA Canada. I went chalk, and I'm picking the US as the winner.
Brennan, who you got?
You made fun of me last time when we did this with the World Cup, and I gamed out like all of the whole bracket with the knockout round because it gets reseeded after the group stage. So I didn't do that this time. So I also just had the teams I think will be the two best are the USA and Canada. And again, I think Team USA wins.
Just for the sake of doing something different, I will go USA Germany in the final and USA wins.
All right. So I told you guys I prepared this ahead of time.
Uh-oh.
I have, since we all agree USA is the overwhelming favorite, I thought, what would it look like if it was USA versus the world in Olympic basketball? So I put together my world team. Let me know what you guys think.
Okay.
I have Jamal Murray at shooting guard. I have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at the other guard. I'm sorry, Jamal Murray at point guard. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at shooting guard. I have Lou Dort at forward.
Okay.
Giannis at power forward. And Nikola Jokic at center. So notably leaving off Bogdan Bogdanovic, Dylan Brooks, Victor Wembanyama, Rudy Gobert, Kelly Olynyk.
Luka.
Like that.
Huh?
Well, you say
forgot
only
Luka.
only teams that qualified for the Olympics.
Teams that qualified.
Oh,
The
gotcha.
Olympics.
I thought you were just making like the all-star thing we've all wanted to see.
But I did like that I did like that you got Dylan Brooks got mentioned before Wembanyama. I did enjoy that.
Well, I was just going down my list, but yeah.
Okay.
We can stick with that.
Dylan Brooks appreciates.
How do
Yeah,
you think that does?
I'm
Murray,
just gonna
SGA,
put
Dort,
Vic
Giannis, and
over
Jokic.
Dort. I'm
Yeah, I
I'm
agree.
going Giannis at the
Yeah,
3,
I'm
Vic
going
at the
weird.
4,
Yeah,
I'm going
I agree.
Jokic at the 5. I just want the talent. I'm not putting Lou Dort out there with the other options. I'm sorry.
I wanted the perimeter defense
So Victor
against Team
Wembanyama's
USA.
for-
I just thought it would help.
Yeah, I
me.
was going to
Giannis,
say
like-
Vic could probably
That's
handle
true.
that.
You know what?
would
All
be
right,
my
so we're going to
guess.
move Giannis up and Wemby in. So, all right, SGA, Murray, Giannis, Wemby, Jokic. How does that fare against
Who's the-
Embiid,
so-
LeBron, Durant, Steph, Drew Holiday?
I think
I
USA
think the international
wins.
team wins.
Oh, I think
Oh.
USA wins. I think USA
I think
still
world wins.
We'll never know.
Because we were just talking about size, right? That's the advantage Team USA has, but now that advantage goes away with what we just built with that monstrosity of a world team.
Yeah, I could think like the way USA could play it at a faster pace if they needed to in that matchup, and then like just some of the clunkiness of what that would look like. I think even as bulky as that world team would be and hard to score against, I think Team USA could figure it out.
Okay, so you're the final vote, Wes. Who do you think wins?
Well, I'm going Team USA, baby. America.
Well.
That's right. That's right. We're Patriots over here in Ohio and Florida. Unsure about Arizona right now. Tough. All right, let's go on to a game of what matters most. Can I actually one last Olympic thing? What sport are you guys what sport are you guys actually most excited to just crush like randomly during this?
That's not basketball.
Yeah, it's not That's not the men's or women's basketball, the 3-on-3 basketball.
I like swimming. Just our country dominates in it. It's easy. It's
Yeah.
easily consumable. It's quick. It happens fast. Yeah.
What I love about
that's like
swimming
the
is-
PBR of Olympic sports. It's just easy.
I love watching like how you can watch the trials and then the thing all in like half an hour.
Right.
So you get this like full story of like, oh, that's the person that just won the last thing and now they're about to win it. Like no other sport has trials. I mean, I know racing does like in car, in NASCAR and F1 and whatever, but that's like the day before. This is just right there. I love that.
Excited for track and field. I'm excited for. Will I watch it? Open question. I am fascinated by the idea that this is going to be the one and only Olympics that breakdancing is an Olympic sport. I learned that today.
Oh.
Only?
watch that.
Is that like confirmed
It's
already?
already been taken because they're bringing like flag football and some other stuff for the next Olympics. So breakdancing is literally in the Paris Olympics and will be taken off for. So there's going to be like someone's going to win gold in breakdancing, and they'll be like the only person in the world that can ever say, at least for the foreseeable future, that they are a breakdancing gold medalist.
It's pretty sick.
Yeah. A lot of
love
the
for
times when things
Jimmer
go away,
Fredette
they
and
don't
the
come back.
3-on-3
So
basketball, huh?
there you go. Did you guys watch? Have you seen it? Have you watched 3-on-3 basketball? It's crazy the pace of it.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's such a specialized skill to like play in that style. Like in the women's side in particular, they've built like camaraderie over the years. Where it's like the Cameron Brink injury, like honestly felt like a bigger deal for 3-on-3 basketball than it did for the Sparks in the short term.
Yeah, it's like the most polished version of pickup hoops you could imagine.
Yeah,
But it also
awesome.
looks like a choreographed, like I don't even know, like a ballet at the same time. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel like basketball.
Do you guys prefer the Winter Olympics or the Summer Olympics?
Summer.
Summer, come on.
I don't know. As a Nordic, I enjoy the winter a little bit.
I don't even know what snow is.
Yeah,
I
it's
like
true.
I love speed skating in the winter, but
Yeah, speed skating's great.
overall, there's way more in the summer that I like, so I gotta go that way.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to what matters most. We've got 3 stories. We've got Sam Hauser signing a 4-year, $45 million extension with the Boston Celtics in a move that is going to push their payroll up to as much as $500 million. Also, the team notably for sale, and the price tag we have seen is $5 billion for the Boston Celtics. Tom Thibodeau got a 3-year extension as the head coach of the New York Knicks, and Andrew Nembhard agreed to a 3-year, $59 million extension with the Indiana Pacers. Wes, we'll start with you. Which of those 3 stories matters the most?
It's the Sam Hauser extension. You already mentioned the numbers there, but the Boston Celtics, like you said, are for sale here. And this team, and it looks like Grousbeck and this group wants to sell soon. Like they're predicting early next year this thing should be done. So by the time that tax bill gets to what you're talking about, $500 million, right? Total payroll, when you consider the payroll of the roster plus the taxes, which are going to be upwards of $240 million in just the luxury taxes. Who's paying for that? We don't know. It's the next owner, and will they pay for it is a really interesting question for a team that could be defending multiple titles at that point, if this goes the way that the Celtics are hoping. So, the Tibbs extension, Nembhard extension, now all that's cool, good for them. But this has, and it's not just because the Hauser extension, right? He's making like $10 million a year on this.
But that's
on
like
this extension. But it just sort
yeah.
of is it the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak? Tim Bontemps wrote this up for ESPN, and he had this graph in his story, and I thought it was interesting. I'll just read it real quick. If the Celtics were to subtract just one of the big salaries from their books moving forward and replace it either with a draft pick or players on inexpensive rookie-scale contracts, it would quickly become very plausible for Boston to get below the second apron, giving the Celtics flexibility to continue adding to the roster. And then obviously, once you're not above the second apron, that tax bill is not nearly what it would have been had you been above the second apron. So the reason why this matters the most is not just because it's billionaires spending millions of dollars, but because is there a point that the Celtics are going to get to where they're going to have to trade one of these guys? And you look at the roster and how it's going to be. Like Al Horford will probably be retired by then. But to me, the 3 untouchables for Boston are Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White. Untouchable. That leaves basically Drew Holiday or Kristaps Porzingis as the guy that they would have to move for a cheaper option. Holiday is making $30 million, $32.5 million, and then $34.8 million over the next 3 years. Porzingis is making $29 million and then $30.7 million in this big year where it could be a $500 million payroll, and then he becomes a free agent. So the answer could be as simple as just let Porzingis walk after you pay $500 million. But if they don't want to pay that $500 million check, then it feels like Porzingis or Holiday are going to be the ones that are out. So I would put the question back to you guys: if you had to decide between those two, which one stays, which one goes? Who are you picking? Assuming that Tatum, Brown, and Derek White are there.
Well, at that point, Drew Holiday will be 36, 37.
Yeah.
It feels like if you have to or are trying to dump somebody early, the oldest guy makes the most sense. Obviously, Porzingis' body might be 47 in the grand scheme of things, but I would go Drew. I also just think it's cool, kind of along the same lines as retaining Hauser, that they kept everybody. They obviously gave Pritchard that really smart contract a little while ago, but they kept all their other young guys, except for Brissett, I think. They clearly want to develop everybody and keep them all in-house so that when they do have to make this decision, they actually have options to replenish it rather than just having to dump somebody and not get anything in return. But I would go Holiday.
I would say Holiday as well, but I would like to revisit this question if Porzingis probably isn't going to play until like next year, pre-All-Star break sometime, it seems like. Let's just see what he looks like over the next year. I think that
Totally fair.
will tell us a lot. Because if he doesn't look right or gets hurt again or something, and he becomes like he's already kind of an injury risk, if he becomes even more of an injury risk, then I might be saying, okay, is he the guy I dump and I go try to use his salary to get a big, or do I like try to draft a big or do something like that? I would really.
It would be a little scary to walk away from Porzingis, even with all the health concerns being what they are.
Because he's so unique.
Well, he's unique, and you're already going to lose Horford to these guys 38 years old. They acquired Xavier Tillman, which I thought was really smart. He's still there. Do they develop him into something? Is he enough of a fill-in starter, or maybe not starter, but a minutes guy regularly for them going forward? They drafted that other kid that was pretty good at Summer League. I forget his name. But is there a way to develop somebody behind Porzingis and Horford right now that can help fill that in later on? But what they do is just so unique that it feels like that's not something that you could just get on a rookie scale contract veteran minimum.
What everybody does on this team is so unique, right? Like, you're never going to rebuild this version of this Boston team once anybody leaves it, including Horford. Like, they're going to have to look different, play different, be different the minute that this thing starts to come apart. So that makes it harder to answer too, as far as what will you even need when the league changes, when one piece of it starts to fall apart. What's the style of play and roster makeup even going to be? That's going to be a huge part of it.
So it is the Celtics one. Can I make a case for? Can I just make like if I was going to make a contrarian case, I'm going to make the contrarian case for the Pacers one.
Okay.
That's my answer. So I agree with you.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead, guys.
I think big picture it is the Celtics one, just because that's a title team. Like it is the shape of a defining team in the league right now, and you know if they win a title next year, do they just become justified in keeping to spend the money? But the Pacers one is interesting on two fronts. Number one, this is a good player who had a breakout conference playoffs, and they paid him. That in itself is notable. This team also now has a lot of guards. They have Halliburton, Nembhard, Mathurin, Nesmith, Shepard, and TJ McConnell. Do they look to like move Mathurin for something at this point and cash in on him? Do they, do they try? Do at some point they decide, hey, Nembhard's a tradable salary for us? I think this is telling us a little bit about where this roster is going to change and need to evolve. If the Pacers make another move, they already kind of did the Siakam thing. Like, I don't know if they're in a rush to make another move that is not historically how Herb Simon's organization has worked. But the guard spot is now just so loaded with guys that I feel like this could be the spot where if they're going to try to do something different, Nembhard's salary is now is a potentially interesting salary to another team that they could trade for a player who fits with the team a little bit better. Or I wonder now if at some point like the Mathurin becomes like a reclamation project for another team. This just feels like a point of shift in what Indiana's building here to me.
Yeah, it was interesting to me for the same exact reason. I think this contract is something that was designed as a nice little trade piece, much more than a commitment that Andrew Nembhard is going to be here for the next 3 years or beyond. I'm just not convinced he fits with Halliburton in a perfect world. I mean, he's the best thing you have. I think Nembhard's a very good player, so obviously don't get rid of him. But if you're trying to build the best version of this team around Halliburton and Siakam, I'm not sure if that includes Nembhard. Also, their luxury tax situation, with this contract going into effect for the 2025-26 season, in addition to the Toppin deal that they just signed, and then having Halliburton and Siakam on maxes, they're only $28 million below the tax for that season already, and McConnell and Miles Turner will be free agents. Their contracts combined are going to be more than $28 million, and the Pacers never pay the tax. So this offseason signaled that they're going to keep the current group around for right now, and it's going to probably be a pretty good team next year and even better than they were this year. But they kind of also locked themselves into having to change something around after that because financially, how everything fits, it's just going to not make sense long term, I think.
This is an average annual value for him of like $19.5 million, $20 million. Is Andrew Nembhard going to meet, exceed, come below expectations for what a $20 million player is in the NBA going forward?
I mean, if what he did in the playoffs is anything close to what he's going to do, he's going to exceed it.
I'm high on Nembhard, so I agree with you. I think he's a really good player. In terms of his fit with Halliburton, I don't know. I like the fit. I don't know if I like the fit just because both players are really good. But it is sort of interesting that the Pacers also went ahead and drafted Tristan Newton out of UConn, whose most common comp going into the draft was Andrew Nembhard, right? And it reminds me a little bit of what NFL teams will do with like offensive linemen, defensive linemen, is you got this guy who's making a bunch of money, but who's probably not going to be there long term. So you draft a guy in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round or something like that. You develop them for a couple of years, and then they can kind of take on as the cheap version of whatever that player was. And so maybe the Pacers are getting ahead of it. Maybe you guys are right when you say this was a trade. This was a contract that they signed in order to trade this guy. Maybe that's ultimately what happens here. But I do know that the Pacers are very specific in the kind of players that they want around Halliburton. And I have seen nothing to indicate that Nembhard and Halliburton don't work. But that was also Nembhard on a rookie scale contract and not $20 million a year. So
well, that's the thing, right? Like they work, but are they the best you can do? And maybe if you're in Indiana, they are. You know, but I mean, this guy like showed us in the playoffs that when he has the ball in his hands, he can be a pretty legit creator, and that's not really what you need or want, ideally, if you have a player like Halliburton who can do a lot of that for you. So that's going to be the question is there a better defensive version of Halliburton that makes it fit better? Is there an off-ball version of Nembhard that still gets you a lot of value of what he is? It's not like it can't work. It's just, is that ideal? Is that optimized?
Yeah. Let me ask one more thing about this, just as a point of comparison as far as potential guards in the trade market the next 6 months, a year, whatever. Both in their mid-20s. Anthony Simons is making $25 million next year, and he's making, I think, he's making 27.6 thereafter. Nembhard's an estimated 18, 19.5, and then 20.9, so basically 21. Considering the contracts, both roughly the same age, if you were going to trade for one of them with another team, which of those would you prefer?
I thought you were going to ask, would you just swap them if you're Portland and Indiana? Because Nembhard kind of does everything that the Trailblazers need. And I guess Simons, with his shooting and the pace that he plays at, would be a benefit. Would be really useful next to Halliburton. And my answer, that's what I thought your question was going to be. And my answer was still going to be no, because I don't think that it's an improvement enough that's worth like kind of shaking things up. But I would go Nembhard if I was another team trying to trade for somebody. I just believe in him a little bit more. I like his feel for the game a lot more than Simons. I like his size. I like the upside there, where Simons feels a little bit like he does one thing. He does it really well. I don't think I've ever seen a better summer league player than Anthony Simons, like a better summer league shooter. He's never missed a shot in the Thomas and Mack Center, I'm pretty sure. But
I'll fact check out with my high school diploma. Make sure.
Don't worry, it's right.
Okay.
Synergy.
I would probably pick Simons. I think his top-end talent is just too good. I think he's developing as a passer, his pull-up three ability, his athleticism. His defense has been really bad in the NBA. But he's a little bigger than Nembhard, so maybe it's a wash on that end of the court. But I think Simons has a lot of things that are harder to replace in a player. So if I'm just picking one, who's going to be better? Who do I want to try to build around? It's probably going to be the guy who has more of that type of stuff.
Yeah, I think I go Nembhard just for this reason. It depends on what kind of team I'm. If I'm a team that is like if I was like the Spurs, I would prefer Simons, and to take a bigger swing. But if I'm a team with more structured that wants specifically this kind of rough guard archetype, and I know they're not the same, give me the one who's a little bit cheaper for more flexibility under the aprons, and that. I just think in the trade market, I wonder if that matters at some point. If this becomes like a thing where like they try to deal him, I would do wonder if there's something attractive about his contract being like pretty darn reasonable for the next 3 years if it comes to that.
Cheaper and under contract for more
another
time,
year,
right? Like Simons is going to be even more expensive before long.
Yeah, Simons might be headed to like the Brandon Ingram zone where he's like the type of guy who gets squeezed on a contract though. That's just a guess, but I wonder if he's headed there.
I have a personal question for you guys.
All right, let's do it.
I've been thinking, because obviously the Olympics are in Paris, and my wife and I went to a French restaurant last weekend. Delicious meal. We had escargot. We ordered escargot. We love escargot. We've had it many times. I've never had it like this. I've never had it served in the snail shell, which was wild to me. And so we ordered the escargot, and I like to look like I know what I'm doing at a nice restaurant. I don't always know what I'm doing at a white tablecloth restaurant. I like to have the sommelier come over. I like to pick 2 bottles of wine. I like to say, which one do you prefer with our meal? look kind of like, oh yeah, we got the New World one over here, the Old World one over here. What do you think we should go with the fillet, whatever? And they serve me something. He brings the bottle out. He shows it to me. I go, yes, of course. And then I spin it in the glass and the whole thing. So, but so when they bring the snails out, I purposely do not look surprised.
Chris, can you see Wes referencing his notes as he read through all of that?
Yeah,
He's
I like
and
that.
then
Yeah.
what I do is
Yeah,
that
like,
I do
he's
the
like
thing with the
he was like,
snail.
hold on,
Actually, wasn't
honey,
doing the notes.
hold on, honey. I gotta pull up my notebook and I gotta document this so I can talk to my boys about it on the Just Basketball pod.
So they bring out the snail shells, and then I'm like, okay, obviously it would be in the shell. How else would you make snails? And they put it down in the middle, and then the waiter comes up with a small plate, and on this plate are 2 of the tiniest tongs you've ever seen in your life. And he goes, and here are your snail tongs. And we go, well, yes, of course. How else would you
No,
eat
of
the
course, the
escargot
snail
if not
tongs.
with the snail tongs? And so we grab the snail
That's when
tongs.
you go,
It-
oh, I was wondering where they were. Like, that's how you
Right, I
got to
thought they were right here.
act like you've been there
Yeah.
before. Yeah.
Yeah.
It took you way too long to bring out these snail tongs.
This feels
You're
like
at
a
snail's
Seinfeld.
pace
This feels like
bringing
a
the snail
Seinfeld
tongs out.
episode, honestly.
So they're hard to open. So they're spring loaded. So they clasp the shell pretty violently. I was a little worried about the shell breaking, but these are high quality snail shells. And of course they
Sure,
were not.
yeah. You only use tongs with the high quality ones, obviously.
So I'm sitting there messing with these snail tongs, and we eventually figured it out, and it was a delicious meal. But I'm thinking, okay, it would be very cool to be in the Olympics, and like this is, and I've been to Paris with my wife. We got escargot there. They didn't sell it. They didn't sell it to us in the shell. But I would imagine if you go to very high end restaurants in Paris, this is how they do it. So my question to you guys is, of the nations competing in the basketball portion, so it's not all the nations in the Olympics, you had to eat one food for the rest of your life based on one of these cultures, one of these nations. Which cuisine would it be? And I'll give you a quick list just in case you need a refresher here.
Yeah, please.
Australia, which I guess
not that.
you eat kangaroo or something.
It's not that.
Brazil, delicious. Canada, they have things.
Maple syrup, Wes. Crown Royal.
Maple syrup, Tim Hortons, poutine, bacon, all these things. France, obviously. Germany, schnitzels and the like. Greece,
Euros.
That's
Japan.
That's up there. That's a contender. Ooh.
Puerto Rico, very good. Serbia, I hear is good. I don't know that I've been to a
Yeah.
Serbian restaurant.
I did watch
Spain,
the
obviously,
DNVR. Yeah, the
and
DNVR
US.
documentary about Serbia was made me
It
want to go to
seemed like
Serbia.
mostly alcohol based on their experience, but fine. If that's the
Yeah.
diet, I'll drink my calories.
As long as I can like have some protein and like kind of like not make myself really sick because I'm old now, that'd be cool. This is easy. I want to just eat a bunch of like sushi in Japan. It's not even this is not even a question.
That's all I answer.
I would be nervous with Japan that my stomach's like not where it needs to be to handle that full time.
Wait, quick follow up, Chris. What's your favorite kind of sushi then?
I'm very simple. I would just give me like the highest quality like salmon like sushi you could have. Like just I'm not really into like the crab sushis. I also frankly have not been to like a high enough sushi place to really have gotten like the full on experience. There is apparently one in Cleveland that is very, very good. Need to go. I've also seen in Japan, and maybe this doesn't count because it's not a fish, but I have seen like them do like wagyu like beef sushi in Japan, which I am fascinated by and would very much like to try.
My answer is Spain.
The best thing I've ever eaten in my life was in Spain, so I'm not even
got
sure what it was. It was something
A nice
involving octopus.
variety,
It was amazing.
right? Like you're on the Mediterranean still. You can get some of that type of stuff. You can get more like traditional Hispanic things. You got meats, you got vegetables, tapas, entrees. I'm getting breadth, but I'm also getting quality.
Yep. All great answers. I'm going Greece. I love Greek food. I love the Mediterranean kind of thing. I love the fish. I love the kebabs. I love hummus. I love all that stuff from Greece. So that's one of my go-tos. Just there's a bunch of good Greek restaurants in Miami that we go to. Also, great wine in that region too, which I really do care about. Not
Where's
to say that
America?
there isn't great in Spain, but
How many countries are you guys going down before you get to American?
I like American. Like, what's an American food?
That's really my question. That is really
We're
my
just,
question.
I'll-
it's
I'll
just
crush a
everybody
burger.
else's food, right? I mean,
Yeah, and hot dogs. Like
I think like a burger,
barbecue.
chicken wings,
Yeah.
barbecue. That to me is American food, and that's honestly high up on the list.
Also, I
over
just want to
Canada, I'll tell
clarify:
you that.
if anybody from Spain heard that. I know it's not on the Mediterranean. I just want to.
Brendan's good at geography. He went above high school.
It's
so
on
bad at
all
it that I
those
didn't
seas that are
correct you.
connected.
It felt
Yeah, none
wrong,
of
but
it.
I
I'm
wasn't confident enough in my own geography.
I'm from
skills
Ohio.
to-
I just
I was
just
generalizing,
breezed by it.
but I just want to make it clear that I know that.
Okay.
Just in case anyone's listening that judges me.
Yeah. Trying to think what the last one of these Serbia. And I don't really know anything about South Sudanese cuisine, so that's kind of like. But like, I'm sure it could be very good. I'm open to it.
There was an
Try
Ethiopian
anything
restaurant
once.
next to my old apartment, and I never went. It was really popular, got really good reviews, and everybody said it was good. I just was nervous.
Australia might
I'm a
be
baby.
last on the list. I'm sure there's things, but
I've
I'm not
had
all that interested.
I've had Vegemite, and I generally was repulsed. So I'm kind of
And
out
that
on
is what?
Australia. It's like a
spread.
It's like a spread, and I've watched a video of like Australians eating it where they like, unlike here where we like if you get peanut butter, you're not just putting like a light smear of peanut butter. You're like destroying the serving sizes, right? That's just how we do it here. It's like they just put like a little bit of it like on a piece of
What
bread.
is it made
and-
of? It's a spread of what? Is it a plant? Is it like liver? Like
Let me tell you. I don't think it's liver. Let me tell you what it's made of. It is made over. It is an Australian food spread made of leftover brewer's yeast extract with varied vegetable and spice added.
oh, you had me at leftover.
It sucked. It sucked. Like generally, like one of like the worst things I've ever eaten.
All right,
was
so
Vegemite.
Australia could. We're not gonna.
I'm just kind of. I don't. They might have a nice cuisine. I'd like to go to Sydney. I'd like to go to Melbourne. I think it's Melbourne technically, but Melbourne because I'm American saying that. I would like to go there, but I'm not super stoked on the cuisine.
Those areas are more international, so I'm sure they offer kinds of sushi and things like that. They're also on the water, so it would be.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's all of that kind of stuff, but it's probably not traditionally. It's like going to England. You don't eat British food, right?
No, you eat
Unless you're
Indian.
at a
You
pub.
eat Indian. Yeah, you eat Indian food.
Exactly.
In
So
England,
it's
yeah.
kind of
Or
this
like
metropolitan kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they have some sort of specialty there.
yeah. Yeah, Australia as a former Brit, knowing that Australia as a former was founded as a Brit. Well, not founded. I got to
You're good.
clarify
You're
myself.
good.
Okay.
You're
Just
good.
covering myself.
Nobody's gonna come for you on this one. I think you're fine.
Okay. But Australia.
We know
being
how
a former-
colonialism works. You're gonna
okay.
not say
Just
the wrong thing. Okay.
yeah. But Australia being like a former British penal colony, it makes sense to me that like when I think of Australian food, I'm not that excited.
Canada, same. I mean, look.
Well, they got the French thing though, where like I've heard only great things
Sure.
about Montreal. You know,
Sure.
Montreal
All right,
bagels.
there's our
pretty good.
rankings.
There's
Top
our
to bottom.
rankings.
We cover
All right,
every
we're gonna-
country.
Yes, we're gonna end there. I'm Chris Manning. That's Wes Goldberg, and that is Brendan Clean. Back at you next week, reacting to the first bits of Olympic basketball and all things hoops. Talk to you next week. Have a good one, everyone.